all expected, the Republican pivot around early and absentee voting didn't last very long. Today, we are in a situation where the Richmond Electoral Board has illegally gotten rid of this early voting location. That's not a decision they can make. That's a decision for the city council, and they made that decision. The Electoral Board made that decision with the support of 2 unelected Republicans, not the folks who were elected by the people of Richmond. So we're going to take all appropriate action to ensure that this illegal act doesn't stand. But you know, the governor could do this today. He says he supports early voting. He could actually make a phone call to his own party in his own backyard. But we're not holding our breath. Because Republicans know that when people vote, they lose. They know that when everybody has an opportunity to make their voice heard, they don't do well because they don't have good ideas. We don't want Youngkin's abortion ban in Virginia. We don't want him to roll back progress on climate change when we've got a 110-degree day outside today. We don't want him to take away the right to vote, and we're not going to let it happen. We're going to make sure we get this early voting site. We're going to make sure folks can vote this November. We're going to make sure that Youngkin's agenda is DOA.
All right.
And with that, I'll introduce the mayor.
Another round of applause, man. Well, good afternoon, folks.
Good afternoon.
I've been told I'm on the best side because I'm in Southside.
That's right. That's right.
All right, look, folks, there is no other way to say this. This past Tuesday, the Richmond Electoral Board made an intentional decision to make it harder for Black and brown Richmonders to vote. Intentional decision to make it harder for Richmonders to vote. That's why today I'm standing alongside members of the Richmond City Council. We got President Jones next to me, the Democratic Party of Virginia, the NAACP, members of the General Assembly, Delegate Bourne's with us. And today we're here to urge the Richmond Electoral Board to reverse course on their decision to close the Hickory Hill and City Hall voting locations. Now, here's the truth. There is no reason to close 2 early voting locations. No reason at all. Especially when 25% of the 11,208 in-person early votes in last year's midterm were cast at these same satellite locations. Let me say it again. 25% of them, of that 11,000 votes that were cast at these 3 early voting locations. Now the city has done its job. We did our job to ensure that we provided the resources to have these early polling places open. So Mr. Balmer, the voter registrar, presented that to the board. But the Republican-led electoral board still voted to close these 2 locations. And this comes just after Governor Youngkin and the Virginia Republican Party said that they were now believers of early voting. Goes on national TV, goes on Fox, and urges, oh, we're all for early voting now. But now you see the actions right here at the local level. And here's the thing, Richmond. It's Richmond today, but it'll likely be Fairfax next week, Arlington after that, Norfolk after that, because now the Republicans have the majority on all the electoral boards all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Why is Governor Youngkin making it harder to vote in predominantly Black and brown neighborhoods? I want him to answer that question. Why is the Republican Party making it harder for voters to vote in these neighborhoods? Is it truly early voting for all, or is it simply early voting for some? Now, my promise to you is that we will fight this decision by the Electoral Board and ensure all Richmonders have easy access to voting. And my message to the Richmond Electoral Board this afternoon is this: we strongly urge you to hold an emergency meeting as soon as possible, ASAP, to resolve this critical matter. The ball is in your court. President Jones.
We've been here before. Yeah. City council has already opined on which locations should be utilized. Last election cycle, they published that 3 locations, 3 sites would be used, but they only opened up 1. Riva, Councilman Trammell, other members of council and myself, we went to them and asked them to open up Hickory Hill immediately. So the question is why? Why are we here again? City council has already spoken through the budget process. They're talking about it's gonna cost $100,000. We understand that. That's why we appropriated the money for the elections office to actually carry out and discharge their duties. We as a council will not ask a department or division to do something that we have not empowered them to do. So they have the money, they have the resources, so what's the issue? We know the soundbite, early voting matters, and they're right, it does.
It does.
Early voting is important, they're right, it does. Now, put your action, put your praxis where your mouth is, where your rhetoric is. We know that this is simply voter suppression. This Richmond's GOP-controlled electoral board, they chose to do this at a vote of 2-1. Voting should not be about D's and R's. It is the core value of our democracy. And not just our democracy, but democracy throughout the world. And that's what is being challenged here. This issue transcends partisan politics. It is not about who is on the ballot or what is on the ballot. It is about the fundamental principle of accessible voting. Unfortunately, this decision will disproportionately impact, as Mayor Lamar Stoney has already said, individuals that live downtown and individuals that live in South Richmond. Me, Reva, Ms. Mosby, all of us that are in here, we would have to travel close to 30 minutes just to vote. And that is a barrier, that is a hurdle. The rationale provided by the Electoral Board for the decision is budgetary concerns. But again, we have firmly ensured that the dollars are there. By closing all early voting locations except for the registrar's office in an out-of-the-way office park off of Burnham Avenue, the board has effectively created a significant obstacle for many voters who are black and brown, particularly those who are without access to reliable transportation. This decision again directly contradicts the initial purpose of opening satellite locations to address the criticism of the Burnham office's difficulty to reach. In conclusion, we stand united against any and every form of voter suppression, because make no qualms about it, that is what this is. Our democracy thrives when every citizen has a voice. Let us then work together to remove barriers, promote inclusivity, and protect the integrity of our electoral system. Now I'm going to ask that President of
Educational and economic equality rights of all persons, and to eliminate race-based discrimination. We are the oldest and boldest civil rights organization in this country. And Maggie Walker was our first vice president. Well, just for you all. So I say some shit.
School is in.
I think all 3 of these gentlemen here hit the points. Why are we here? We've been here before. Voter suppression, disenfranchisement, access. What is wrong with making it convenient for folks to vote? You know, people, for a long time, when we went through the movement of Jim Crow, we went through the movement of civil rights, women's rights. Now we're here. You know, it's always something being thrown at the folks who look like me or they consider the least of you. People, it's time for all of us to come together as one. Unite. It is time for all of us to rise up out of the ashes, just like the phoenix, and let our voices be heard, and let them know who and where you come from, and who and what you are, and let them know that there's power in numbers. So I'm asking each of you all to get it together. For those who haven't been voting, it is now time for you to vote. Because guess what? This is the beginning of what they're trying to do. And they know that their time is up. And so some folks want to hold on to everything that they can because they know that their time is up. But I'm asking you all, especially, you know, the public should be outraged. Y'all should be raising hell.
We will.
Councilwoman Trammell, you know, these are your seniors.
And I'm out of here.
Yeah, these are your seniors. I see seniors from the 8th district, from the 9th district, and from some other parts of Richmond. We should be raising hell. Don't let them do this to us.
That's right. That's right.
It's time for y'all to rise up. Y'all have been silent for far too long. Wake up, everybody. And on that note, I'm gonna say, to be continued. Thank you.
Good afternoon. There's not much more that can be said about the importance of this issue. I think President Jones said it right. Access to the ballot, our ability to vote is not Democratic or Republican. It is American. And so when we do things like this to restrict people's ability to get to the ballot box and cast their vote, we are saying your votes don't matter. And we're saying it pretty loud. And as someone who stood on the House floor and in the Capitol, fighting the fight over 2 years to make access to the ballot easier, to expand early voting time, to make sure that you can vote on Sundays after church. That's why we have Souls to the Polls events. And we've seen that it works. Turnout since those changes has been historic. We've set records each year about the number of people voting. So I would join my friend, my mayor, in urging the Electoral Board to reconsider this. They have the money, they have the people. Let's cut all the BS and let's open Hickory Hill back up so that people can come.
Yeah, let's do a quick Q&A here. I see Cam.
So, Mr. Mayor, I know you're asking the board to do this. Assuming they don't, you talked about other options. Can anyone talk about the legality of this move? Is there state law there in violation of? I don't know if this is made for a delegate forum. Of just what are the other options if they don't listen to today's call?
We do have a couple of attorneys up here, but I'm gonna let the Democratic Party of Virginia take this one.
So the code is clear, that this is a decision for the city council or the board of supervisors. This is a decision for the governing body of the locality. The electoral boards can set dates and hours, subject to the fact that they've got to make sure that there's Saturday early voting the last 2 Saturdays. But that's all they can do. So that is, the law could not be more clear. And I think, like I said earlier, we're going to make sure that we take, if the electoral board doesn't reverse its decision, we'll take whatever appropriate action.
What's
Do
the
you guys
code
have a
say?
deadline?
What's that?
Deadline, if they don't act, you're gonna do something?
Mr. Mayor, what's the
Well, it's our hope that we get their attention this afternoon. You all gonna do your part as the media and letting them know how the people of Southside and other parts of the city feel about this move, and hopefully it gets their attention. Now, here's the thing, I'm a believer that cooler heads may prevail. The decision may be reversed. I've already spoken to the general registrar already, gave him the position of the administration, of the city council as well, that we've allocated $100,000 or so to ensure that we have early voting sites open before election day. We want to see that happen. Anything less than that is a violation.
So was there a
Could I add
specific?
to that? Just one of the pieces on. And understand that council has already opined on the fact that we want equal access. So when it opens on Laburnum, it should open here.
Right, that's right.
That's something the council has already said. That's something we've already already dealt with 2-3 years ago.
But that's not a, is that a resolution? Is there an ordinance on that? Did you include that amendment in the budget? So it says the electoral board will do thus and so to receive the money? Is there any of that, or is it just that council held a meeting, they talked about it, but there's no actual legal language on the record?
There was legal language, as he said.
What does the code say?
Jeremy, he literally told you the code.
What
He
is it?
literally told you the code.
I'm happy to give it to you.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll give you the code number, the section and everything.
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to give it to you.
Yes.
Here, we'll follow up with that. Graham, let's keep going.
So was this like on the electoral board's meeting agenda? I guess I'm curious if anybody told them that this was illegal or allegedly illegal before they did it.
Now, I think in the past, they used to have legal counsel at these electoral board meetings. I remember Jim Ackman used to attend those meetings before he was actually on the board. What I've heard from Mr. Ballmer was he presented a plan in the run-up to Election Day, and they decided, when they heard the figure $100,000, they balked at it. And they were like, oh, that's too much money. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get as many people to the polls as possible. And as already been stated, we allocated and appropriated dollars for this function of government. And so to just say, to dismiss, the fact that we've had early voting locations in the past, and to move forward with only one, is a total disregard to what the city council has said about this and what we've allocated the dollars for.
Does the city attorney advise the electoral board, or are they just kind of doing their own thing?
What I've been told is the city attorney right now is reviewing what has occurred. There may be future communication coming from the city attorney's office on this matter. I don't want to speak for the city attorney.
All right, you got any more questions? All right, go over there.
Cruz.
Yes, sir, Mayor, thank you very much. If they are very hesitant and reversing this process, is there gonna be perhaps a number available or email address where the citizens can bombard, the appropriate officials, to turn up the heat, just like it is outside?
I would break out my phone, but I just tell someone right here to break out their phone, go to your Google search engine, type in, RVA, voter registrar. There should be a phone number at the bottom of the page, and let the electoral board know how you feel about this.
Okay.
Right? What we're calling for right now is an emergency meeting to happen ASAP, that they can reverse this decision. So, as Mr. Minor already stated, they need to hear from you. Now, these are elected leaders up here, excluding Mr. Minor. But, he's like, he's royalty, so, But they need to hear from the voters.
Right.
The people that this will impact and the people
Right.
this will affect.
That's right.
That means you also need to send emails and call the registrar's office. Now, if you want me to, I'll let someone else answer another question. I'll Google it, and so I can give you all the number. All right, so y'all can follow along, right?
All right, I think, we got any last ones?
This is generally for every group that is made up of people like us. You're dark, I'm light. Why is it every time I know there are white people that vote in this area. So why is it prominently said brown or black? Because even people that claim to be black are not always brown or black. Sometimes they're very light.
Very true.
So, why are we not just making the people instead of?
Well, everyone here wants more voters to just turn out, period. At the end of the day, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, left or right, black or white. We want you to come out and vote.
I just don't like it having pointed out every time.
Well, what we're
We know what we are.
fully
And
under-
I'm for that.
fully understand, but we have to obviously highlight the fact that the areas that would be most impacted are predominantly black. You live in a predominantly black area.
I lived in a predominantly white area before. What difference did that make?
Well, what we're saying is there should be multiple places for people to vote.
If you were black, you know the difference it makes. I'm just gonna say it like that.
You might know the difference, the attitude.
All right, so the number that you all need to dial is 804-646-5950.